Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our September 20th, 2022 hybrid meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And on behalf of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, I'd like to observe a moment of silence to reflect on the life and legacy of the service of Queen Elizabeth II. So I'll take a moment there. Okay, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the meeting, but I just thought it was right that we do that moment of silence. He served a long time, and I think it's the only queen I've known, so I think everybody's saying that stuff. Anyways, I will ask everyone to turn their cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't disturb the meeting. We do have a lengthy meeting here, a lot of planning reports. Already it's been busy, so I'll remind everyone a declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. Declare it now or declare it when that comes in. So we have minutes here from the regular council meeting of September 2nd. I'll look for a motion to receive those minutes if they're all in order.
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor, and that's carried. So next on the agenda here, we have a public meeting for zoning bylaw amendments. We have 4 of them here, so I'll look for a motion to go into that public meeting. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor, and that's carried. So our first zoning bylaw amendment on the agenda here is for Ricardo and Don Rodo. This wording here, I'm going to just say it once here, and it'll be the same for all of the reports here, but this is a statutory meeting held under section 34 of the Planning Act. The owners and applicants are Ricardo and Don Rodo. The property is described as part of lots 17 and 18, concession 6, having the municipal address of 187 Burnt Dam Road, Belmont Ward, having a property roll number of 1531 010-004-07100. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make verbal or written representation either in support of or in opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please keep your video off or microphone muted during the meeting until I invite you for comments regarding the planning matter. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. So with that, we'll move into the report with Arya.
Through to you, Mayor. Good morning, Council. Before I start my report, I just want to make a note that on paragraph 2 of the property description, it stipulates Mile of Memories Road. It should actually read Burnt Dam Road. So that is a typo, and special thanks to Mayor Martin for bringing it to my attention, as he clearly reads these reports quite thoroughly. So again, the purpose and effect of this report is to present for consideration and requisite approval of council to amend the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended to rezone 2 parcels of land identified under legal description of part lots 17 and 18 in concession 6, or as identified as 187 Burnt Dam Road. This property is presently under the ownership of Don and Ricardo Rodo. The rezoning will change the zone category of the subject property as a condition of consent applications B222 as well as B322, while also introducing certain site-specific regulations. While traditionally the township's official plan requires 2 separate applications for each consent application being submitted, the township feels as if it would be appropriate to complete the rezoning of the 2 parcels under 1 zone amendment application. And this is kind of consistent with past practice. So therefore, it is the recommendation of my report that the draft bylaw be passed and that the balance of this report be received. So just a little bit about background, information on the property, as well as the applications. So consent applications B222 and B322 were recommended for approval by Township Council on March 15th, 2022, and was subsequently approved by Peterborough County Land Division. The purpose of the consent applications were to sever lands from 187 Burnt Dam Road to encompass the creation of 2 new lots fronting on Burnt Dam Road, which is a municipally maintained road. Only the severed parcels as outlined by the consent applications as well as the rezoning application are subject of the rezoning to satisfy the conditions of the consent applications. The subject property comprises a total area of approximately 91 acres with approximately 598 meters of frontage on Burnt Dam Road. The first parcel, which is identified as lot parcel number A, or sorry, not number, letter A, would afford 297 meters of frontage along Burnt Dam Road and comprise a lot area of 4.4 acres, while the second severed lot, identified as lot parcel B, would afford 121 meters of frontage on Burnt Dam Road and comprise a total area of 4.2 acres. Both new parcels are currently vacant, and future development of residential uses are anticipated on both lots. The retained lot will remain as the same. So this application must conform to the provincial policy statements as well as the growth plan, the township and county's official plans, as well as the township zoning bylaw. Touching a little bit on the provincial policy statements as well as the growth plan. These 2 policy documents include policies which recognize limited residential development in rural areas. The PPS and growth plan also emphasize the protection and consideration of natural resources in development applications. The property owner had completed a natural heritage evaluation, which identified an unevaluated wetland oriented towards the northwestern portion of parcel A. Additionally, the natural heritage evaluation, or we call it EIS, also identified an unevaluated wetland north of Burnt Dam Road towards Round Lake. The rezoning will serve to place an environmental protection zone on the wetland property of parcel A, as well as the vegetative buffer, or which is referred to as the vegetation protection zone, from both the unevaluated wetlands. So that the developmental impact to these natural features would be limited. Therefore, these applications are consistent with both the PPS and the growth plan. Touching a little bit about the county and township's official plans, the subject property is designated rural and cultural landscape in the county's official plan. The policies in the county OP also emphasize the use of the rural landscape, provided that there are no negative impacts to natural features. The township's official plan designates this property as rural, and policies of the official plan prohibit development or site alteration within wetlands and natural heritage features. The natural heritage evaluation completed by the applicants determined that all new development would be located in what is referred to as quote unquote a developable area outside the vegetative buffer of these wetland features. And therefore, this application is consistent with both the township as well as the county's official plan. And finally, the zoning bylaw. The entire property on 187 Burnt Dam Road is currently zoned as rural in the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw. If approved, the application will serve to place what is referred to as EP zoning or environmental protection zoning on the 30-meter vegetative buffer of each abutting wetland, as well as the wetland feature itself on parcel A. The rest of parcel A will be rezoned to Special District 253, which is inclusive of regulations under the rural zone. And the rest of parcel B will be rezoned to special district 254, which will also be inclusive of regulations under the rural zone. So as of this moment, there is no new additional development being proposed on the retained lot. The new severed lots, parcel A and parcel B, will eventually be developed for residential uses. And it is anticipated that all new forms of development will be able to meet all the applicable provisions of the zoning bylaw. So in conclusion, this application satisfies the spirit and intent of the township's official plan, the zoning bylaw, and is consistent with the policies of the county's official plan, the growth plan, and the PPS. Notices were circulated to the prescribed agencies and adjacent property owners for their review. So far, we have no concerns being expressed in regards to the zone amendment applications. I did want to also make a note that following this meeting, there will be another meeting where a mitigation agreement will be taken to council for adoption, which will outline the recommendations or implement the recommendations of the natural heritage evaluation. And that concludes my report to council.
Great, thank you, Arya. Right, so I'm going to ask for the first time, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? And third time, anybody in opposition? Is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of this application? Seeing none. Second time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? And third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? All right, so we do have a recommendation in front of us here, council, and what's your thoughts? Larry, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's been quite a lengthy process here, and it's quite evident that Mr. and Mrs. Rolo have followed all the necessary requirements and steps to create these two new lots. So I would move that we approve the recommendation from Aries and pass as presented.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pomeroy?
Yeah, and we're gonna rectify the report for the frontage on Mile of Memories.
Yeah, okay. All right then, so we have a mover and a seconder. Any other questions or comments around this? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move into the next report here, and it's the owner and applicant is Betty Williamson. The property is described as part of lot 16 and 17, concession 6, municipal address 225 Fire Road 82, Methuen Ward, having a property roll number of 1531010072790. So I'll turn it over to Arya. And
I think that's actually through to you, Mayor. I think it's actually going to be Alicia who's going to be presenting.
okay. Heard of that.
They don't want to steal her.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks, Mayor Martin, and through you, good morning, council and staff. I hope everyone's doing well. So yeah, I'll hop right into it because I know we have quite a long meeting ahead of us. So my first report that I'm reporting on today is yes, for the a zoning bylaw amendment for Betty Williamson, and the purpose and effect of this application is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 as amended in order to permit the development of the subject property with a new single detached residential dwelling, while also introducing certain site-specific regulations. So on this site, the existing cottage is proposed to be demolished and replaced with a new 2-story dwelling. And the dwelling is proposed in the presented location to effectively accommodate for an existing driveway on the subject site that actually leads to the neighboring property, which has existed for many decades. So the site itself is fairly physically constrained, and we're just looking for a location that would sort of fit the cottage appropriately. And as a result of the redevelopment, though, no further encroachment is proposed into the high watermark setback. So as Mayor Martin had mentioned, the property address is 225 Fire Road 82, and the roll number is 1531-010-007 -27900, and the property is located on Cashabog Lake in the Methuen ward, and it is 0.6 hectares. It's zoned seasonal residential, and it's a designated shoreline in the township's official plan. My recommendation is that, subject to any new information or public comments received at this statutory public meeting, that the application should be passed as presented. The applicant is requesting permission to, as I had previously mentioned, demolish the existing cottage on the property and replace it with the new 2-story development. And the existing cottage that's proposed to be demolished is 92 square meters approximately within one single story. Well, the new dwelling proposes a ground floor area of 169 square meters and a gross floor living area of 260 square meters split between the 2 stories. As I mentioned, the new cottage will not encroach any further into the high water mark than existing, and the distance between the shore and the eastern frontage of the building will be marginally improved upon its development. There will also be a new septic on the site, and it will be set back outside of the 30-meter high watermark setback, and none of the existing accessory structures on the site are proposed to change in any way. The Crow Valley Conservation Authority was engaged as part of this application and noted that both the existing and the proposed development are within the emergency 6-meter access setback that they require. However, the development does not propose any further encroachment into that setback or any encroachment into the erosion or flooding hazard areas. So the Conservation Authority sees no issues with the proposed development. And as I noted earlier, the site is effectively sort of split by an existing vehicular access, which benefits the westerly neighbor to the applicant, and that's been in place for decades. It's not a formal easement, but it is a sort of a general understanding that that be maintained, which does obviously physically constrain the development because it kind of cuts across diagonally. So that is partially why the cottage is proposed in the existing location. And because of that location is within that 30-meter setback, a scoped environmental impact study was conducted, and the study provides a list of recommended mitigation measures for the new development, which include fairly expedient resodding and replanting on the site to improve the stormwater quality and quantity of stormwater coming from the site back into Cashabog Lake and onto the shore. And these planned replantings have been integrated into the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. So we see that those replantings and resoddings are planned. So following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it is our opinion that the subject application conforms to the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the County of Peterborough official plan, the Township official plan, and is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Public notice was posted on site and mailed to surrounding property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. Therefore, it is my conclusion and recommendation that this application be approved, and I'm happy to answer any questions from council members or members of the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alicia. I'm going to ask for the first time, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? And the third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? And the third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll open it up to council. Councilor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question. The septic weeping bed is not proposed to be altered as part of this development. How old is the existing bed? I think I read somewhere in there where the cottage was bought in 51 or 52.
Yes.
I think, you know, in the future going ahead, I think this is something that we have to look at because you're increasing the footprint of the cottage, or not the footprint, but the occupancy of the cottage. So therefore, the old bed probably wouldn't carry the traffic that's probably going to be there. There's added bedrooms and bathroom. I think in the future, well, even this one, I can't really see. It's only 15 feet from the property line, I think. From what I can read here, it's pretty small, but go ahead.
I was going to say the septic here, it is outside of the high watermark setback. It's 35.9 meters. So it is outside of the setback, but to your point, it is obviously an older cottage, but I do see Travis has come up here, and I think I was actually going to speak to it being possibly a building issue. So Travis, if you wanted to hop in.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Septic will be looked at through Peterborough Public Health prior to the issuance of any building permit.
Okay, because I think that's something in the future we're gonna have to look at, council here. You know, you put on an addition, and some of these additions that are going on are end up being Bs or rentals. And the old septic is just not going to handle it. And, you know, we're hearing from the cottagers now that, you know, they want us to pay for the inspections. Good luck, but I think, you know, preventative maintenance would be the route to take here.
So Travis, that'll be taken care of when the health unit gets involved in the permit process?
So through you, will any increase in size, fixture units, or bedrooms would require a review of Peterborough Public Health.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Trav. Thanks.
Okay. So what's council's thoughts on this proceeding? Is there any motion? Deputy Mayor Droe, go ahead.
Mayor Martin, Travis has cleared that septic issue up, so I would move this forward and the recommendation be accepted.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Droe that we go with the recommendation. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Lisa. Next report here is a report for Frank Maneri and Lisa Rowland. This property is described as part of Lot 15, Concession 3, having a municipal address of 362 Fire Route 33. Belmont Ward, having a property roll number of 153101003144400. I'll turn it over to you, Alicia.
Thank you very much, Mayor Martin, and through you, yes, this zoning bylaw amendment is for property owners Frank Manieri and Lisa Rowland. And the purpose and effect of this application is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 is amended in order to permit the redevelopment of the subject property with a partially rebuilt single detached residential dwelling with a second story addition, while also introducing certain site specific regulations. So the southern portion of the existing cottage is the part that's proposed to be partially demolished and rebuilt. And a second story will then be added on top of the entirety of the cottage with a very small addition located to the rear of the cottage. And that addition is just to enclose an existing staircase and sort of incorporate it into the cottage as opposed to having it outside access to the basement or crawl space. The redevelopment of the cottage will not result in any further encroachment into the high watermark setback. And all of the proposed changes on the site will either occur at that existing setback or will be further beyond that setback. So we'll sort of follow the shoreline, but based on sort of how the shoreline wiggles around there, it'll be actually further set back. And I do want to mention, actually, despite the size of the property, because this property is sometimes a little bit larger than the ones we'll bring to council for rebuilds of cottages, the site is actually still quite constrained by a variation of mature vegetation that actually sort of locks the development into place where it is. So to avoid the destruction of quite a few mature trees that are directly surrounding the cottage, as well as vegetation communities that the ecologists who performed the EIS on the site had identified to the rear of the property, and wetlands that the CVCA had identified, we are able to support the development this close to the water in this case. So as previously mentioned, the property address is 3625 Route 33, and the roll number for the property is 1531-010-003-14400. And the property is in the Belmont ward, and it's 3.5 hectares. So again, slightly larger. It is zoned seasonal residential, and it's designated shoreline in the official plan. And my recommendation is that, subject to, again, any new information or public comments that are received at this statutory public meeting, that the application be passed as presented. The applicant is requesting permission, as I mentioned, to demolish a part of the existing cottage on the property and replacing that with new materials, just sort of an upgrade. It is, like many of these cottages, an older development. So that will effectively expand the seasonal residential dwelling. And the redevelopment will increase the gross floor area of the cottage from the existing 119.5 square meters to 241 square meters. And it will increase the height, as I mentioned, from 1 to 2 stories with that second story addition. And in the event that that permission is granted, the rebuilt portion of the dwelling will be located in the same place as existing and not encroaching any further towards the water. So that would be 6.6 meters from the high water mark. While the southerly addition, so beside the sort of rebuilt part, south of that, that will be set back either between 6.6 meters or 13 meters from the shore. As I mentioned, the sort of change in shoreline. And that southerly addition will also include a covered deck on pier foundation. The existing uncovered deck, which is set back 5.7 meters from the high water mark, will not be proposed to be changed. It will be maintained as is throughout the redevelopment. And there will be a new septic on this site, and it will be located behind the new dwelling outside of the high water mark. I mentioned previously that there are quite a few physical constraints on the site, so I'm just going to speak to those a little bit now. The Crow Valley Conservation Authority noted that the existing and proposed development are not within the flood hazard of Belmont Lake. However, they are within the erosion hazard area. So as a result of that, the Conservation Authority had requested a slope stability study as part of the complete application. And the results from that report were favorable, and the proposed development can move forward according to the recommendations of the study, which have been incorporated. And the site, as I mentioned, has some pockets of wetlands throughout, and those are regulated by the Conservation Authority, and those require setbacks for development. And that's kind of why we're planning to redevelop in this location. So in keeping with the township's practice of requiring a scoped environmental impact study for new development in the 30-meter setback, that was prepared for the development, and it evaluated the proposal with respect to the on-site conditions and development's proximity to the shore. That study was satisfied with the proposed location, not imposing any negative impacts on the lands, because the shoreline is actually already in quite a developed state. So it's not proposing to encroach further or further develop sort of the concrete setting that the shore has right now. And there's also, as I mentioned, a lot of mature vegetation and existing wetland to the east or the rear of the property. So this is a favorable outcome considering all of the constraints that kind of had to be thought of on the site. So following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it is our opinion that the subject application conforms to the growth plan of the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the County of Peterborough official plan, the Township official plan, and it is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Public notice was posted on site and mailed to surrounding property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And it is my conclusion recommendation that this application be approved. And as always, happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? And the third time, anybody in opposition? Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? And the third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll open it up to council. What's your thoughts, council? There's a recommendation here. Councillor Ellis, go ahead. All right, did you? Counselor Ellis? You're muted? I think he put his hand up. Oh, man.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if you can see me or not.
Yeah,
Okay, I have a technical issue here, but if you can hear me, that's fine. Just a couple of comments. There's a lot of information here regarding the procedure of build there. Looks like all has been monitored and followed, and further development will be in the good, capable hands of our chief building official. So I would move the recommendation that's brought forward.
all right, thank you. Moved by Counselor Ellis. Do I have a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor Dro is seconding it. Any questions or comments for Alicia? Seeing none, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Alicia. And our final application here is for Neil and Tracy Bowman. This property is described as part of Lot 16, Concession 5, having a municipal address of 28 Fire Road 80A. Methuen Ward, having a property roll number of 153101007200100. I'll turn it over to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Through you, this application for zoning bylaw amendment is for property owners Neil and Tracy Bowman. And the purpose and effect of this application is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 as amended in order to permit the redevelopment of the subject property with a new single detached residential dwelling while also introducing site-specific regulations. So I'll start this presentation off by saying quite a bit of cooperation has occurred over the past months between the applicants, commenting agencies, and consultants, as well as township staff. And we were able to come to an agreement on how to proceed with sort of the larger scale of development that is proposed on site. So I will say there was quite a bit of a background work towards this, and I think we can all move forward with something that we're quite content with today. The existing property is currently developed with, the property is developed with an existing cottage, and that is proposed to be demolished, and it will be replaced with a new single-story dwelling that does have a significantly larger footprint than currently exists. However, the redevelopment will not result in any further encroachment into the high watermark setback. And we also have executed a development agreement with the property owners to be registered on title with the township, and that will ensure that the shoreline will be naturalized as part of the redevelopment, sort of as a way to mitigate any of the impact that the larger scale of development that's proposed. So we can ensure that the site will remain naturalized in years to come as a result of it being registered on title. And that's something that we're quite confident will be a good tool moving forward. So I'll get into all of the details now. The property address in question is 28 Fire Route 80A, and the roll number is 1531-010-007-20100. The property is located on Cashabog Lake in the Methuen Ward, and it's 0.2 hectares. It's zoned seasonal residential, and it is designated shoreline in the official plan. And it is my recommendation that, subject to any new information or public comments received, that the application should be passed as presented. So the applicant is requesting to demolish the existing 69 square meter cottage on the property, and that is proposed to be replaced with a new 296 square meter dwelling at the same setback from the water as currently existing, which is 11.5 meters. The development of a new septic will be required for the newer, larger dwelling, but it will be set back outside of that 30-meter high water mark, whereas the current system is within 30 meters of the shoreline. So this is a very clear improvement on the site. The existing 134 square meter uncovered deck is proposed to be demolished and will be replaced with a 44.5 meter uncovered deck, and that will be set back 13.4 meters from the high water mark. There are currently accessory structures, including a slide, a bunkie, and then part of the uncovered deck that are encroaching onto Crown lands west of the subject property. And those are proposed to be removed as part of the development. And the bunkie, however, will be relocated onto the subject property, which will be behind the new proposed cottage within the property boundaries. The Crow Valley Conservation Authority was also very involved in the application, and they noted in their review that the development proposed initially did kind of pose an erosion hazard. So they required that the proposal realize a minimum 4-meter setback from the top of slope on the site, and that a slope stability report would be completed to ensure safe construction and sort of the longevity of the development, so there wouldn't be any issues going forward. And the Conservation Authority did meet with the applicants on site, and together they staked the 4-meter mark from that top of slope and confirm the location of the new cottages proposed, so that it would meet the required standards. So the Conservation Authority is satisfied with the way that the development has proceeded thus far. And again, because it is proposed in that 30-meter setback, we had a scoped environmental impact study conducted on the site, and that had provided a list of mitigation measures that should be adhered to through the development of the new structure. And we also had an addendum provided by the ecologists to sort of speak to the required replantings and recommendations for ensuring the improvement of the health of the shoreline and on-site vegetation in order to sort of counter the impact of the greater development. And those recommended plantings have been incorporated into the site plan, which is submitted by the applicant. And again, just because it is a slightly larger scale of development on a smaller site, we did have the development agreement explicitly require that those recommended plantings be implemented and maintained, and then again registered on the title of the property. So, you know, in the event that any changes occur, that those still have to be maintained so that there's less ecological impact, as well as slope sort of changes in impact along the shore. And through detailed conversations with the ecologists between the applicants and ourselves, we're quite confident that the development can proceed with the impacts to the vegetation and shoreline healthily maintained and mitigated through that development agreement. So following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it's our opinion that the subject application conforms to the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, the County of Peterborough official plan, the Township official plan, and it is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Public notice was posted on site and mailed to surrounding property owners in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. And thus it is my conclusion and recommendation that this application be approved. And similar to the previous application, there are some technical sort of components of this. So I am very happy to help answer any questions that may come up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alicia. Okay, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? And the third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? And the third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll open it up to council. What's your thoughts here on this? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin. Alicia could try and explain to me. I don't understand where you say that the shoreline in question will go back into its natural habitat or whatever the wording you use. Who's going to be responsible? Is that who's going to own that portion?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So the sort of renaturalization of the shoreline that I was speaking to is directly related to the replantings that are proposed. So in a way to sort of mitigate, okay, we've got a much larger building being proposed. There's going to be some changes on site. So we want to make sure that any sort of runoff or anything that comes from that site is being mitigated along the shore by adding some bushes and trees that will improve the overall sort of setting. Both from a safety standpoint and ecological standpoint, and as well as trying to meet the policies of the official plan that speak directly to the visual impact of development along the shore. So that is still going to be sort of within the ownership, of course, of the property owners, and it will be their responsibility to ensure that those plantings be incorporated into the site. And they're aware of that. They have already signed the development agreement, because they too want it to be an improved site, of course. So what the development agreement does is effectively registers it on title, saying that in accordance with the plantings on the site plan, these have to be maintained, so that in the future, if somebody does, there's another property owner in the future, and they decide that they want to clear cut the front of the shoreline and effectively damage the entirety of the shore or any of the vegetation that's kind of crucial to ensuring that development can be sustained safely, that they're actually responsible for maintaining at the very least some level of vegetation on the site to keep it in its natural setting.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks. Let me know if there's follow-ups.
Okay then, so is there any other questions or any recommendation here? Anybody want to move it?
I'll move it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we approve this recommendation. Is there a seconder for that?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you, council. Have a great day.
You too. So it's up to council here. We normally look at the bylaws before we move on. There is 4 bylaws here. What's your thoughts? Did you want to deal with them now, or did you want to leave them until the end of the meeting? Deputy Mayor Giroux?
Mr. Mayor, I might as well follow through.
Okay, all right then. So the first bylaw we have here. Oh, we got to come out of the public. Yeah.
Motion to return to regular meeting.
Okay, but better get a motion first to go back to the public meeting. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Now we're into the public meeting and we'll look at these bylaws. And the first bylaw we have here is bylaw for Roto, and it's Special District 253 zone and Special District 254. So the first bylaw for Roto. What's your thoughts there?
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. The second bylaw here is for Williamson, and it's part of lot 1617, concession 6 in the Methuen ward, and it's special district 256. I'll look for a motion for that bylaw.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconder Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. And the third bylaw here is for Maneri and Roland, and it's part of lot 1617, concession 6, Methuen ward in the township Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, and it's special district 255 zone. For a motion for that. Move that bylaw. Councillor Webb. And seconder, Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. And the last bylaw we have here for these zonings is Bowman, and it's part of lot 16, concession 5, Methuen ward, special district 257.
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so the next part of our agenda here is minor variances, and I'll look for a motion to turn it over to Deputy Mayor Giroux for this. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy and seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will now call this Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and remind the members of the committee of the requirement to disclose any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof if the occasion arises. This public meeting is held under Section 45 of the Planning Act and its regulations. I will now ask to start proceedings for several minor variances.
Through to the chair, application or minor variance application A1222 for property owner Gregory Armstrong, having civic address of 1025 Jack Lake, which is a water access only property. Currently zoned seasonal residential with a shoreline designation in the township's official plan. The property owner retained an agent. His name is Ken Tompkins. I wasn't sure if he was on the call or if he's having technical issues. So there he is. The purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 4.37 of the comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 to permit the construction of a 16.7 meter square, or that translates to about 180 square foot sunroom attached to the existing single detached recreational dwelling. This application will have the following effect. Reducing the minimum required setback to the high water mark from 30 meters or 100 feet per section 4.37 to 25 meters or 82 feet. And the recommendation of this report is that the minor variance application A1222 for this application be approved with the following conditions. That the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted. That any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the issuance of a building permit. That a 20-day appeal period lapse prior to the issuance of a building permit. And that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application, as well as the balance of the information of this report we received. As my report stipulates, the township has determined that the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance. It is also consistent with the provincial policy statements as well as the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The development all in all is it does not further any deficient watermark setbacks and reflects the existing conditions on the property. The application was circulated to all applicable agencies. The application was also circulated to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. To date, we haven't received any comments in opposition of this application, and therefore this application is appropriate for council approval. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for that, Ray. We've already established that the applicant or his agent is present this morning. Good morning, Ken. Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application this morning? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
Yes, I would like to speak in favor of this. Hello, Mayor Martin and Council. Thank you for considering this sunroom. I think this is a great location on Jack's Lake. We've worked hard to move it away from the front of the cottage, which is what, of course, everybody wants, and find a place that works for both the council and not interfere with anyone else.
Well, thank you for that. I'll ask one more time. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the Committee of Adjustment? Mayor Martin?
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward. I'd make a motion that we approve this minor variance.
We have a mover.
Seconder.
Mayor Martin moved. Councillor Palmer is going to second the motion. All in favor of the motion? Any further comments? Motion is carried. All right, Maria.
Through to the chair, minor variance application A1422 for property owners Jeff and Linda Ashby, having civic address of 199 Fire Route 26, currently zoned seasonal residential with a shoreline designation in the township's official plan. So the purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 11.2.1D of the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 as amended, to permit the conversion and use of a 17.8 meter square, or that translates to about approximately 192 square foot shed into a sleeping cabin. This application will have the following effect: reducing the minimum required side yard setback from 6 meters or 20 feet as per section 11.2.1D to 4.5 meters or 15 feet. And the recommendation on my report is that minor variance application A1422 be approved with the following conditions: that the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the issuance of a building permit, that a 20-day appeal period lapse prior to the issuance of the building permit, and that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application, as well as the balance of this information, this report be received. As my report stipulates, the township has determined that the application does meet all 4 tests of a minor variance. It is also consistent with the provincial policy statements, as well as the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The property owners will be required to take out a change of use permit through the township office. And this application was also circulated to all applicable approval authorities. Currently, the CBCA, as well as Pro Valley Conservation Authority, as well as Peterborough Public Health, the health unit have commented, stating that they have no objections to the change of use of the structure. Therefore, this application is appropriate for council approval. This concludes my report to council.
Once again, thank you, Aaron. Both. Is the applicant present this morning or an agent? Hearing none, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor Giroux. The applicants are in the close vicinity of where I live. They've over the course of the time, they've always seek information and suggestions of how to do things. So they've over the time have followed all the requirements of building permits, Pro Valley, even this health unit were involved. They have 2 large adult children who are mostly at university. It's to give them a place when they get a chance to come home from school break. And so they asked me the proper steps and I referred them to the planning department, which you now see as a minor variance. So I would recommend, it's a very straightforward. I would recommend the approval of the minor variance.
I will take that when we get to that. Councillor Ellis, thank you for your comments. So once again, is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, we've heard Councillor Ellis speak. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Are there any questions or comments from the Committee of Adjustment?
So,
No comment.
so is it moved yet, or do you want me to?
Larry, are you gonna, Councillor Ellis, are you moving this?
Yes, I would gladly move it forward, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
All right, thank you. We have a mover. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I would second it.
All right, have a seconder, Mayor Martin. All those in favor? That motion is carried. I believe we have one more, do we, Eric?
Through to the chair, application, minor variance application A1522 for property owner Alexandro Cacara. Forgive me if I do butcher that name. On 389 Fire Route 25, currently zoned seasonal residential with a shoreline designation in the township's official plan. The property owner retained an agent. His name is Trevor Day. The purpose of this minor variance application is to seek relief from section 4.37 and section 4.1C of the township's comprehensive zoning bylaw 1995-42 to permit the construction of a 65-meter square, or translates to about 700 square foot single-story addition to the existing recreational dwelling, as well as a 16-meter square, 180 square foot translated covered deck on the existing recreational dwelling, as well as a 66-meter square, which translates to 720 square foot detached accessory garage. This application will have the following effects. 1, reducing the minimum required setback to the high water mark from 30 meters or 100 feet per section 4.37 to 26 meters or 85 feet. And the second being to increase the minimum required height for accessory structures from 4.5 meters or 15 feet per section 4.1C to 5 meters or 16.5 feet. The recommendation of my report is that minor variance application A1522 be approved with the following conditions: that the development be completed in accordance with the site plan submitted, that any requisite approval be received by applicable approval authorities prior to the issuance of a building permit, that the development meet all setback requirements pertaining to hydro easements, that a 20-day appeal period lapse prior to the issuance of a building permit, and that a building permit be issued within 12 months of the approval of this application. As my report stipulates, the township has determined that this application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance. It is also consistent with the provincial policy statements as well as the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. The application was circulated to all applicable agencies. Crow Valley Conservation provided input on the application, sharing no concern with the proposed development. And therefore, this application is appropriate for council approval. And that concludes my report to council.
Thank you again, Area. Is the applicant present or is the agent present this morning?
Yeah, this is Sandro Cacaro. I'm present.
Okay, thank you. You may have a chance to speak later. Is there
Yeah.
anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? The third time, is anyone wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? For the last time, anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Before we go on and open it up to council or the committee of adjustment, on our maps area, they are very fine detailed, and unfortunately I can't get mine to grow as much as I'd like to. So can you tell me where the septic tank is actually?
The septic tank, I don't have the site plan in front of me, unfortunately, but I can assure you that Trevor is a professional. He's been working in this business for many years. Any septic capabilities would have to be at the discretion of Peterborough Public Health. And it would be like the previous reports, it would be subject to the Ontario Building Code. When I was doing my analysis of the property in terms of like a planning analysis, I did determine that there were no issues in regards to the septic system, and that the existing septic system would be again at the discretion of Peterborough Public Health.
All right, thank you for that.
I can give you information on that if you'd like.
Go ahead.
So on the site plan, the current septic tank and field are beside the cottage. But because we have to increase the size of the septic, the tank will be where the current field is. And then we are moving the field further away from the shoreline to be able to accommodate a larger field. So it's actually getting much further from the shoreline.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, I'll now open it up to the members of the Committee of Adjustment. Any comments? Mayor Martin?
Yeah, this one's straightforward, and it's good to hear the septic's moving away from the water. So I would make a motion that we approve this minor variance.
Thank you for that. Moved by Mayor Martin, seconded by Councillor Webb. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Harriet. And I will now turn the gavel back over to the mayor. Moved by Councillor Webb and seconded by Councillor Pro. Mayor Martin, the meeting is yours.
All right, thank you. Okay, so our next item here is planning reports, and we're gonna get right into them. And Arya, you have the first one here is with regards to an easement application.
Through to you, Mayor. Good morning, Council. The severance application before Council today is for the creation of an easement. So this application's number or file number is B5922. The applicant's name is Todd Taylor. I did send him an invite, the Zoom invite. I wasn't sure if he's attending currently at the moment. The purpose of this report is to obtain a recommendation of Council to be submitted to the Peterborough County Land Division regarding the consent application, which is file number B5922. The recommendation of my report is that Council advised Peterborough County Land Division that the township would endorse the application for consent for the creation of an easement referenced in the attached consent application. The application was filed April 13th, 2022 with an assessment roll number 1531010003131. 200 as submitted by Todd Taylor and Lori Atchison, which is his agent. This application would be subject to the following conditions. That the severed parcel being an easement as identified on consent application B5922 be registered on title. The second condition is that the new easement be registered in favor of all owners which currently use the previous configuration of Fire Route 33. And that the applicant provide a lawyer's opinion that the draft easement, once prepared but prior to registration, would have this effect. The third condition being that all property owners currently benefiting from the existing easement execute an acknowledge and direction for the applicant's solicitor to then register a release of the existing easement following the registration of the new easement. And finally, that the applicant enters into a road agreement with the township. These are the conditions that were stipulated by our municipal solicitors to be recommended. The consent application or the consent proposal, I should say, was the subject of a preliminary severance review completed by Peterborough County Land Division in September of 2021. As proposed, the application would have the effect of creating a new easement, which is the rerouting of Fire Route 33 along a new orientation as shown in the application. The new easement has already been created essentially, which encompasses a process whereby the property owners had an EIS or a natural heritage evaluation completed by DM Wills and a permit issued by Crow Valley Conservation Authority. While the township does recognize that the new fire route does not in fact, or does in fact, I should say, traverse through wetlands, contrary to the growth plan, it does improve the site as the old Fire Route 33 was subject to seasonal flooding, as well as the possibility of contamination of Belmont Lake from any vehicular runoff. So the Peterborough County Land Division has commented that there is no, essentially there's no new development, quote unquote, as defined in the provincial policy statement, as well as the growth plan being done as a result of this application. And that this application will simply be adding names to a deed, allowing others to travel over the right of way. It is for these above reasons that the Peterborough County Land Division is anticipated to endorse the application. So this consent application was reviewed by our municipal solicitors who approved of the application pending the conditions above. The above conditions are mainly to render the township indemnified of any future liability for the use of the rerouted fire route. And based on our review of the subject application, together with all the supporting material, it is the township's planning opinion that the proposed consent application conforms to the policies of the township's official plan, as well as the zoning bylaw. Therefore, this application is considered endorsable. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Arya. So we do have a recommendation here, and it seems pretty straightforward. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
I'll move that the consent application B 5922 be recommended for approval to the Peterborough County Land.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Do I have a seconder for that?
I just had a question.
Okay.
In terms of, you said that these cottagers will be using, how many will be using it? Will be, excuse me, we'll be able to use a new right of way. Do we know like an exact number?
We do. There are a multitude, I would say roughly around the ballpark of maybe 10 to 11 properties that will be used to fire route. The orientation, it's kind of very interesting. And I'm going to be very frank, I had a lot of fun with this application because it's interesting. But the rerouting would provide the same number of property owners with access. However, the new fire route, based off of the natural heritage evaluation, was stipulated that it is better in terms of functionality and it improves the site.
So what's going to happen to the old fire road?
Through to you, Mayor, to you, Councillor Webb, that is a great question. The new fire route is actually in the process of being rehabilitated to natural a natural state, essentially. So, and that process is already taken place. If anyone was to drive to Fire Route 33 along the old route, they would see that it is cut off and it is restored back to natural vegetation.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm familiar with this. I used to ride my mini bike down through there all the time. And like you said, it is a swamp down where they're going to be building that road through. And I understand there are issues with the road currently, but I can kind of see the same issues coming up down in there in the future. So hopefully whoever does the construction does it well. Because you might just be one problem 40 yards down the road. So, but thank you, Aaron.
Okay, Councillor Ellis, you had a comment or? We
Yeah,
haven't got a
just a
seconder
com-
for this.
just a comment through you, Mr. Mayor. From what I read here, and what I'm being told from Aries, this is just basically a total improvement environmentally. Am I correct?
Through to you, Mayor, to you, Councillor Ellis, based off of the natural heritage evaluation that was completed, that would be the opinion of the ecologist that provided the report. There were determinations that the old fire route, considering the fact that its orientation was strikingly close to the shoreline, did present some environmental issues in terms of vehicular runoff, salts and chemicals that would have been detrimental to Belmont Lake. And that the new fire route would actually be improving the environmental conditions of the site, rerouting it, and the construction has, as my report stipulated, it has already been done. So this is just to legalize the
Okay. All right, so I don't have a seconder for this. We do have a mover of different moved. Just looking for a seconder.
Yes, that'd be.
I'll ask one more time. Is there a seconder for this recommendation? Councillor Ellis, go ahead. You're seconding it? All right then. Any other questions or comments around this? All in favor of the motion? It's carried. So. Okay. Okay, the next item on the agenda here is with regards to boathouse, not allowing boathouses on Jack's Lake, and this has been around a long time, had a lot of work put into it. It was before us here probably over a year ago, and it's coming back to us now with a recommendation. So I'll open it up to Arya.
through to you, Mayor. I think actually Mike Keener.
Yeah, all right, we're seeing that one. Hey, Mike.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mayor Martin. Good morning, members of council, staff, and public that may be attending online. And certainly, as the mayor mentioned, this is a long-going project. I'm going to say probably 1 year longer than we had all hoped in the first place. So I'm happy to be back here this morning to briefly present recommendations to you. They actually remain the same as our recommendations from a year ago, which is to prohibit boathouse development on Jack's Lake. And context for this amendment stems all the way back to the council direction from 2019 to undertake a study to look at limitations for dry land boathouses. And the general reason why we're recommending the prohibition is first and foremost is because Jack Lake is one that you share with a neighboring township that already prohibits boathouses. So there's a consistency piece here by causing that limitation in your township. The second piece is really to bring policy in line with environmental protection and 30-meter setbacks and largely areas that are not to be developed. And as you heard today, all the sessions, variances, and your rezonings are because your municipality has been developed for a long time. You have a lot of development within 30 meters that has intrinsic rights, and people are redeveloping older homes. So placing some additional limitations in that 30-meter setback is ultimately good for the environment and good for the lakes. And one of the public comments was related to why not apply it to the whole township, and I could see that being something that this council may consider at a future date. But the purpose of this application is to complete the amendments for Jack Lake in particular. So there are two amendments before you for recommendation. There's the official plan amendment, where we specifically are proposing to add a policy to prohibit boathouse development on Jack Lake. The reason we have to put that in your official plan is because generally the OP allows boathouse development. So we have to specifically add a policy to prohibit it. And then secondly, in the comprehensive zoning bylaw, we are adding two small policies that talk about prohibiting new boathouse development, but also providing some clarity for those that already have boathouses so that they can rebuild and repair and strengthen them in the event of damage or wear. So in terms of what's before you today is breaking the process out a little bit. Last fall, when we adopted this, we had recommended adopting both the zoning amendment and the official plan together. And we received an appeal. And there was a number of issues that appellant had raised. And in reviewing those appeals, the whole application was repealed, and we did additional consultation earlier this year. And one of the comments in their appeal letter was related to the approach we were taking to adopt both amendments at the same time. So what's before you today is to adopt the official plan amendment. So adopt meaning you endorse it, pass it on to Peterborough County for approval. While the zoning bylaw, what we're recommending is that you do 2 readings and you sit on it until the official plan is approved first. And that, as much as you can put language in the zoning bylaw to approve it and say that it will come into effect after the official plan is approved, official plan amendment is approved, by just waiting until that OPA is approved first, it takes any of those questions off the table. So that's our recommendation to council today, and I'm pleased to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And yeah, you did answer a question around the zoning bylaw. I couldn't figure out why we had 2 separate things here, but you've answered that. So moving forward, is this going to open up and we haven't seen a ton of boathouses anyway. I think there were 7 over the last several years, but by doing it this way, are we going to open up any flood of applications for boathouses to try and get ahead of it, or is there anything we need to do to stop that part of it?
You know, I think to your point, Mayor Martin, you haven't had a lot of applications, and no matter how you look at this, boathouses cost a lot to build and construct properly. I'm not concerned with you receiving a flood of applications. I wouldn't be surprised if you receive a few. The only way to really stop, call it outright halt the application, is an interim control bylaw, which essentially halts development of boathouses on the lake. We had looked at that a year ago, and we felt that because this wasn't something you were receiving a flood of applications, it wasn't necessary to take that drastic of a step. So it's true, Travis might be busy doing a couple of boathouses, but I really am not concerned with you receiving a flood of applications over the coming months.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll open up to council. Is there any questions or comments for Mike? So the recommendation here, Mike, is exactly what we had a couple of years ago, to stop on-land boathouses on Jack's Lake specifically. That's one, to clarify that, because there has been some questions around it. And this is just for Jack's Lake right now, and I think that's why the OP had to be changed. So is there any questions for Mike? All right, then. We have a recommendation here. I'll open it up. Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to go back again. You know, we've hashed this over and over and over and over. I think your proposal here, Mike, is it's good. It's showing us where to go and, you know, the additional steps. So I would like to make a motion that we approve.
Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we approve this move the recommendation. Do I have a seconder?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ellis is seconding the motion. Any other questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Troy, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think we're penalizing those property owners, cottagers, with hundreds of thousands of dollars in boat equipment with no place to store them. That's my only comment.
Okay. All right then. Any other comments? Okay, I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of this motion? And that's carried.
I'd like to request that the deputy mayor was not in favor of the motion. Okay, the minutes.
Okay. All right then. So that's carried. And thank you, Mike, for all the work that went into that.
Thank you, and I'm pleased to answer any questions and come out over the coming months as this process wraps up. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you. All right. Our next item on the agenda is delegations, and I'm not sure if Jenna's here. I don't see her name there, but with regards to the figure skating club. That's the hard thing on planning.
here.
Meeting. Oh, okay. Hi, Jenna.
Sorry.
Okay, so we're to the delegation part, and glad to hear you made it. So
Yep.
go ahead.
Do you want to see me or what? Does it matter?
Do we want to see you?
Yeah, do you want to see me?
That was a question. Okay, yeah, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. There we go. Okay. Good morning. Here I am. Yeah, no, okay, so I'll try to be quick because it sounds like you guys got a lot going on here. So I won't hold you up any further, but I just wanted to give you guys like an update of what's going on because I've had a lot of people asking questions about the figure skating club, what's going on all that kind of stuff. So so basically what's going on is we have decided to do to attempt a private, I guess it would be kind of private, like without Skate Canada being involved. The reason why I thought that this would be a good idea, well, not only just me, but Kelly and I both have decided that it was probably a good idea, is because over the last few years, we've kind of taken a bit of a pounding. A lot of our older kids have moved on to other clubs that can better facilitate the competitive figure skating skills that our club was, I think, struggling to try and provide even prior to the lockdown and whatnot. So basically, they've moved on, and I'm happy for them because they're doing very well. On the other end, that leaves us with very little older kids to help facilitate the club. So leading into why we decided to have a private without Skate Canada is because I'm attempting to try and make it cheaper, a little more affordable for kids just learning how to skate, because that's a thing that, you know, they need to do before they can even get competitive or do any of the fancy footwork out there. They need to know how to skate. So, and we do have quite a bit of children in that age range that do need to learn how to skate. And I've had a bit of requests from adults even that are wanting to learn how to skate. So that's kind of where we are going with that. I have done a bit of calling around to see if other facilities have been able to provide a similar program. And I did find that Apsley has been able to do that. And actually the Township is facilitating all of their figure skating stuff. So they do it through Skate Canada too. But there's been a committee, I guess, and I'm not overly familiar with this, but I tried my best to understand what the gentleman was telling me over the phone. And he basically just said that there is a committee within the council and they allow the Township to facilitate for the figure skating camp. I thought that was very interesting. So I don't know if that would be something anybody on the council would be interested in doing. I'd be happy to obviously help or whatever needs to be done to facilitate that. I think that'd be great for maybe next year even. For now, we just need to keep this club going. And I think this may be the best way of doing it. Is just to make the cost lower. I have been looking into insurance for private. It's like, I don't know what's going on with insurance companies right now, but this has been almost 2 months going now where I've just been back and forth dialogue. They have 1,000,001 questions. They want to know how old the building is, stuff like that. I don't know the information for. So, and they also want to know all this other stuff, like how many kids are going to sign up. And I don't know that either. So everything's still just at the very infant stages of this. So, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up, let you know what we are planning. I did book the ice for January 1st. We're hoping to do a 4 to 6 week long session. And we do have Amy Acorn on board, which is another reason why we decided not to use Skate Canada, because they require that coaches have their coach license up to date, and she does not. However, she was a coach, I believe, previously to my knowledge, and so she has had her coaching license before, but I think she'll be a good fit to get these kids learning how to skate and back on the ice, and to start a solid platform back to where we were at one point. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't have much more to add to that. I just wanted to let you guys know what was going on, so that you knew.
Okay, thanks,
Does any
Jenna.
questions? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time involved with the club, and my kids went through the Skate Canada program, and it is good, but we have been struggling. Even when I left the club, it was starting to struggle with getting, coaching and things like that. And Skate Canada was changing all the rules that were making it awkward and hard to get people to come out. So that being said, Norwood's been pretty strong over there, and they're doing well at it. And we've always competed with them. So I did bring the application in from North Kawartha that they have up there. There is a lot of questions around it, and it's kind of like something to start with. But I do think there's an opportunity here to look at something different, like you say. If they decide that they want to go to the competitive route, they can still go to Skate Canada and go somewhere else. But to give options here for some of our families to have a place to come and skate or learn to skate, it would still be there. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to try and get something going this year, because talking to some people, they said once it's gone, you'll never get it back. So if you could hang on this year, and some more discussion goes on with council and staff around this program that they have in North Kawartha and whether it's worth looking at. I did hear that they even work with hockey in this type of program for power skating and things like that. So there's opportunities here. It would involve the municipality to help keep it going. So that's not going to happen overnight, but I'm glad to hear that you're looking at all the options. But I'll open it up to council here for any questions, and see where we can go to help you. So any questions for Jenna? Larry, go ahead.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I can see this as possibly quite a great opportunity. I'm not sure, as Jenna has said, how many other municipalities are doing this learn to skate, and I see this kind of as separate. It's not figure skating as a figure skating, it's learn to skate. And I know from living in Peterborough many years, as Mayor Giroux talked, or Mayor Martin talked about, with hockey, there was always several learn to skates, and was always operated from a figure skating group, and that's what it was all about, learning the proper way to skate. So I can see possibly it's going to take some work, but I think you could probably get a fair amount of support and activity from neighboring municipalities as well as in our own. But as you said, it takes some work, and hopefully you get some support through the figure skating people.
Thank you.
But good idea, Jenna.
Thanks.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you for your time and effort, Jenna. We do appreciate it. And I also think this is a great thing. I hope we can figure something out. Thank you.
So the one question I did have for Bob, and I think it's something we can check out. I haven't had a chance to talk to North Kawartha. I just took their application off of their website. Some things around insurance, when we ran the youth committee, we did set up a committee of council for something like the youth committee, and that helped with insurance for things like events and anything that we were doing as a committee. So I don't know if that would help or not. I don't even know if it's possible, but it's something to look at, and maybe in the next week or two we can follow up with North Kawartha and see if that's what they meant when they told you some sort of a committee, because I'm sure you have somewhat of a committee now with the skating club. You might even get a few from hockey that would join in and make it a committee of council that would help get this program going. So just a thought. So
Yeah, like I totally agree. I think that for years there's been a bit of a competitive competition between the hockey and the figure skating, and I would love to just, you know, let's merge them together. Why shouldn't we work together? And like, we are all working for the same thing, so why not do it together as a team? Like, you know, there's only Kelly and I doing this right now, so, and that's been like that for a while now. So it's been a struggle to get volunteers to help. So if we did have a committee through council, that I think would just be amazing, and maybe connect the two groups a lot better. So yeah, again, I don't know how to go about doing that, but I mean, others have, so there has to be a way. But yeah.
okay, so that's what I'm saying. We'll look into it more, but I'm just appreciate that you're spending the time here to try and get something going. So, Hart, did you have something?
No, I just can agree with you in terms of some kind of committee. I think that some kind of discussions around that already. We've met with some of these groups, I think, last spring. And I think you can hear it in Jenna's voice. If you talk to the hockey people, they're the same way. They put a lot of effort into this for a number of years. Jenna, Kenny Earhart and his wife, and they're seeing it slowly slip away. Right. I think we all see it. So I think it's time for us as a council to, well, because we have to make the choice. If you want these things in our community, then it's time for us to step up to the plate. And I know, I guess some of it sounds like they need money, but to me, I think there's fundraising money that we will find available here in the short future that will be able to help some of these groups that we already have. We won't have to dig into.
We do have fun. Yeah, we do have fundraising money, but like, I mean, that's great, but you need bodies. Like I can't do it all. And Kelly and I, like, we have a lot going on, right? Between two people, it's a lot. And like, we have that canteen that we should be running. And I feel like not running that is like to a total disadvantage to just everybody, like people going in there and like sitting and watching, and then even just us not making money off of it. Like the 1 year I had to, we had decided to get youths in there. I provided them with community hours. I even paid them a little bit an hour just to have more of an incentive, just so we could have it open every single time, every day that the arena is open, because I feel like every day that the arena is open and that canteen is not operating, it's a complete, it's just a fail, I think. But yeah, we just don't have enough bodies. Like I can't be there every day and Kelly can't be there every day. And so, yeah, and we had a hard time getting parents to be involved, which I'm sure they're all in the same situation as us as well too. Like they just struggle to fit things in the day. So, but yeah.
Okay, so I think, you know, we can look into this committee of council, Bob. I don't know if we could find out some things around that, if that's a possibility or if that's bypassing something else. We need to know if it's proper. I think we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can talk to the neighbors there and just see how they're doing it and go from there. But okay, well, thank you, Jenna, and we'll keep working towards something here, and hopefully you can get something going.
That sounds great, guys. I'll keep you updated on how I make out with the insurance. I'm still waiting to hear back, hopefully this week. So I don't even know what they have in mind for numbers. So I'm hoping it's more affordable than what Skate Canada had going on. So anyways, that's wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation, and I think that's all we need for today, Bob.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we receive the delegation, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, did you want to take a 5-minute break here and then we'll move into the next part, or? Yeah, okay, so I'll take a motion, take a 5-minute break. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. Look for a motion to return back to the meeting, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, so we're going to move into staff reports for information. The first two here are building activity reports for July and August. Are there any questions around them?
I've never read something different than one of these. Council requests council's comments on changing the report from format, which was included in the elimination of the kilometer trims.
I'm just gonna speak to that, Bob.
Well, Travis is on the call. There we go.
Travis?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I can speak to that. So we added a little bit of information in there with respect to planning applications by law enforcement infractions. And we took out mileage. Part of the reason Deputy Mayor Giroux, the mileage was taken out is I haven't been used to writing down mileage and I didn't write it down when I've been here. If you'd like it in there, we can start fresh with it again. So it's council's wish for that one.
I have no problem with it, so.
Yeah. Okay, all right then, so you're just gonna eliminate that part of the report then, Travis?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, and add the additional information if you'd like to continue to see that.
I'd like
Okay.
to see the additional. That was good, Travis. Thank you.
Okay,
I'll
so
make a motion to
eliminate the,
receive or eliminate that and receive.
okay. Motion to receive the report and eliminate that was moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Pomeroy and then,
No, I got a question.
okay. So you're not seconding it, I'll just, so seconded by Councilor Ellis then, sorry, Bob, go ahead,
That's fine.
questions? Go ahead.
Yeah. Request council comments on changing the report format, including the elimination of total kilometers driven. Inspections broken down in wards. And tax certificate. But would include by law enforcement. I don't see why we would include the elimination of inspections broken down in wards. Like, that's kind of. I like that part of the graph. Like there's 5 in Havelock, 27, say in the township board and so on and so forth. That might not be important, but it distinguishes it quite quickly.
Okay. So Travis, can you, so the part that you were saying there, like the mileage part of it, but you were gonna leave the wards part of it out too?
So that was just a suggestion. If council wishes to have it still broke down in words, we could do that. Sonia has a way of going through them in the calendar.
Okay. All right, and Dave, your motion, was that to eliminate?
Actually, I didn't realize that that was going to be, I thought the way I read it was only the mileage,
Yeah.
so I didn't have a problem with that. So, yeah, I can send that motion. Do we like?
Okay, if you, yeah, and if it's just the mileage part of it, you can read, I think you can say that, I guess make sure it's okay with the seconder, but you were just thinking just the mileage part of it to take out?
Yeah.
And the seconder was Larry. Are you okay with that? Just having it as the mileage part of it left out, but the ward part of it would still remain the same?
No issue there. Thank you.
Okay. All right then. So, and Barry, does that suit you there? Then as far as the wards are still going to be in there, I know what you're saying there as far as the breakdown, so. Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. So the motion is that that Travis would leave out the mileage part of it and but everything else would stay the same. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. So Travis, there's just do what you were doing there.
Thank you.
Okay, and the second report for information here, is there any other questions around that report? Okay, I'll get a motion to receive that report then.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councilor Ellis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux, all in favor? That's carried. And the next report here for information is Celebrate Havelock, or Celebrate Canada celebrations with regards to a grant. Bob, did you want to?
Just briefly through you, Mayor Martin, this report satisfies the requirement to publicly acknowledge the grant. Celebrate Canada grant from the federal government, $6,300. The funds were used for Canada Day. And I'd like to acknowledge the work of our executive assistant who applied for the grant and was successful and also submitted all the follow-up information as required.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, motion to receive that or moved by Councillor Webb, seconder. Deputy Mayor Giroux, any questions around that or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Next, we move into staff reports for follow-up action. And Rob Lamar, you have a report here with regards to property standards.
I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Just let me apologize for not being there in person. I was recently exposed to somebody who tested positive for COVID, and although I'm not experiencing any symptoms, I thought it would be appropriate to avoid any unnecessary contact. So I'll just provide a summary of my report virtually. So essentially, the purpose of the report before council this morning is that it's intended to provide council with a summary of the tools available to the township related to the development and enforcement of minimum standards for the maintenance of buildings and properties. So the report largely provides a review of the regulations currently in place in the township and recommends some changes to our existing regulations, and ultimately it recommends the adoption of a new comprehensive property standards bylaw. So as it relates to our current policy, essentially as it stands, the township's obligated to enforce the residential rental maintenance standards, which are prescribed by the Residential Act. So these regulations really only apply to concerns expressed to us by residential tenants who are unhappy with the condition of their residential rental units. These regulations do not apply to non-residential buildings or buildings that are owner occupied. In addition, the township has passed a clean yards bylaw, which regulates the condition of yards. This has proven to be a very useful tool to address yard conditions that are relatively minor in nature and are readily solvable with limited expense or effort. So what we are proposing is to continue to use the clean yard regulations in appropriate circumstances. But as I noted earlier, we are advocating the adoption of a comprehensive property standards bylaw. So we have come to conclude that this is the most appropriate way forward for a variety of reasons, including the flexibility that the new bylaw would provide to our enforcement officers. So, and in addition to that, I provided a summary of the key differences between the current context, which is enforcement of the Residential Tenancies Act related provisions, and the recommendations, the recommended approach of adopting a property standards bylaw. So the adoption of a property standards bylaw would also would align our approach with the policies of the township's official plan policies. So I note in the report that the language in both the current official plan and the proposed official plan are supportive of the adoption of a new property standards bylaw. And essentially, I think you could read the proposed official plan policies as, obligating municipalities in the county of Peterborough to adopt the property standards bylaw. There was another reason behind the notion of adopting such a bylaw. So the body of the report does provide council with an overview of the legislation that authorizes the passage of the property standards bylaw. So the Building Code Act, which is the authorizing legislation, provides municipalities with detailed guidance on what is to be included in the scope of a municipal bylaw. So again, as a very quick kind of overview, it prescribes standards for the bylaws to prescribe the standard maintenance of occupancy of properties within municipality or within areas defined by the municipality. So this bylaw in its current form, the draft, would apply to the entirety of the municipality as we proposed it. Bylaws can also prohibit the occupancy or use of such properties that do not conform with the standards. And the Building Code Act also prescribes that the bylaw can require that a property that does not conform with the standards be repaired and maintained to conform with the standards, and would allow us to clear any sites if that was the direction that was appropriate. So the draft bylaw before council contains detailed standards related to the maintenance of properties that are occupied by tenants. So essentially, that's a replacement of the current provisions that are dictated by the province standards, the rental maintenance standards. And in addition to that, it provides a broader set of regulations that apply to all property. And these are typically complaints that we've received from neighbors to properties that are poorly maintained. So just to emphasize the fact that if and when a property standards bylaw is passed by the municipality, we would no longer have to enforce the residential maintenance standards as prescribed by the province. So the proposed regulations are fairly typical of the regulations that are in place in many Ontario municipalities. And they have been reviewed by our bylaw enforcement staff and other relevant township staff. So the recommendation before council this morning is that council provide their input into the draft that's been provided, and that we would incorporate any modifications into a final draft that would find its way before council at its October 4th meeting. So, the property standards bylaw that we've recommended would again, just to emphasize, would cover all properties, in the township, would provide a greater range of enforcement tools. And just as an overview, it would provide us with Provincial Offences Act short form wording. So the council would note that at the end of the bylaw, there's a schedule that we would forward to the Chief Justice of Ontario, and that schedule includes short form wording and set fine amounts. So the process would follow that short form wording of different violations of our regulation. The Chief Justice, reviews the short form wording to ensure that it's detailed enough to ensure that whoever receives the fine can understand exactly what it is they're being charged with, right? So did fail to maintain their property appropriately, would be, as an example. And the Chief Justice would also approve of the set fine amount that we would hand to anybody that's violating. So again, this is just another tool, not a tool that we would use frequently. And this would typically be used where, in instances where we've had some difficulty getting somebody to understand that they need to make the, required improvements to their property. But it's a tool that we think is important to have. And just, I know council's been talking a little bit about administrative monetary penalties as well. That's something that may take place in the future. I know the county and the city are negotiating how to deal with that. And the fact that we would have these short form wording and these set fines would set us in good stead when we get to that point where there's an administrative monetary penalty process. We could adopt that language and those set fines, and as opposed to going to the provincial offences court, if somebody were to appeal a fine, it would go to somebody that the city would employ to adjudicate any difficulties or issues they might have with the penalty that we've imposed. So long term, I think it's also an appropriate approach that way. In addition, the bylaw also prescribes that we have a mechanism for people to appeal any decisions that a bylaw enforcement officer would have in issuance of an order. So part of the process of the enforcement of our property standards bylaw would be the ability to issue an order to somebody who's violating the bylaw. So the order would say, you have 30 days to bring your property into compliance with the property standards bylaw. And it would also state that if they have an issue with the order that's been given by the officer, that they can appeal that order to a property standards committee. And the property standards committee, as it's currently envisioned in our bylaw, is made up of all 5 members of council. So council would hear any appeals and would have the ability to modify that appeal, the order. Obviously, they could approve the order as it's written or rescind it, but that's all spoken to in Building Code Act. So that's pretty much a summary of the property standards related issues. And we've also, in the body of the report, are recommending changes to our clean yard bylaw and our fees for service bylaw, which would make the enforcement of our clean yard bylaw more effective. So what we're doing is we're asking that we modify the clean yard bylaw to include language that would allow us to collect an inspection administration charge of $150 for chronic offenders. And that charge would double for repeated infractions on the same property. If those infractions occurred within a year of the initial one. So just to give council a bit of a summary of how that would work. So a typical issue that we run into with the clean yard bylaw is, somebody failing to keep their grass at a reasonable height. So our bylaw enforcement, when an officer would attend, would speak with the landowner, let them know that their yard needs to be cut in order to meet the requirements of the clean yard bylaw. And we would give them a period of time to do that, 7 to 10 days, something like that. We'd follow that up with a letter that says, further to our discussion on site, we've asked that you maintain your property. Please cut your lawn. And if we have to attend again on a similar issue, you will face a fee of $150, right? So they're on notice. Hopefully they cut their lawn and we don't have to go back. But if they don't, or if at some future date we have to reattend, we'll be in a position to issue a $150 administration charge. And that fee is collected as we would collect taxes, right? So there's no shirking payment of that fee. What that does is it provides another tool, right? And it just emphasizes the need for people, particularly chronic offenders, to be more mindful of the maintenance of their property. And if they face a $150 charge, then we send them a letter saying you're being charged $150 for not having maintained your property and having us attend on the second occasion. And the letter would say, if we attend on a third occasion, the next time we attend, you'll have to pay a $300 fee. Right? So, and it doubles from that point forward. So that eventually gets to sink home, right? It gets to be pretty costly as a way forward. So anyway, that's what we're suggesting is the appropriate way forward for the clean yard bylaw amendment. And the reason we need an amendment to our fees for service bylaws because that would implement the charge, right? So we would effectively just make an amendment to that bylaw as well, so that we could start charging the inspection fee. So just briefly in closing, hopefully I'm trying to be trying to summarize things here fairly quickly. So the enforcement of property standards bylaw will be delegated to the property standards officers as appointed by council. So in our context, that that would include the building department staff, CBO and myself, as well as our current bylaw enforcement officer. We would enforce the regulation on a complaint basis in response to detailed written and signed complaints, unless the infraction is related to a life safety matter. So, the Building Code Act prescribes that the CBO really must enforce issues or deal with issues of life safety for unsafe buildings. That's just part of the process, and that's not something we would need a complaint to deal with. We have the authority to do that in any event. So, and again, we don't propose to change how we enforce the clean yard bylaw as well. That as well would continue to be enforced on a complaint-driven basis following receipt of a detailed signed complaint. And this would continue to be our bylaw of choice for yard maintenance infractions of a minor nature. In terms of the implications from a financial perspective, we anticipate that the passage of a comprehensive property standards bylaw may generate some additional costs. And of course, that would result in some additional costs. But we are proposing some amendments to our fees for service bylaw to help defray some of those costs and recover some of them from the people who are creating the need, as opposed to additional burdens on our ratepayers. And I've provided a bit of a summary of what those changes to our fees for service bylaw would look like. That's a summary of my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. I wasn't sure if you're gonna make it through there. It was all breaking up the odd time, but we got everything that you were saying, and there's a lot of good things in here. I was reading it there this weekend, and there's a lot of things that need to be done, and this is a good progressive way of doing it. I do like the B progression there. I think that's the only way to get the message across. You don't have to drive too far around here to see people that repeat, and maybe this would stop it. I've said that all along, that we need to do something to hit home here. So good job. And there, for any input, like you say, we can reach out to you and clarify anything that we don't understand, but I'll open up to council. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, just first of all, I'd like to commend Rob. I'm sure Mike was involved with creating these bylaws. A lot of work done here, much needed. I don't know how many times, especially since Mike and Rob's been on staff, where we hand off a complaint and sometimes not much can be done about it because we didn't have the tools to address it. So this definitely gives us the tools. So hats off to the good work done there, and look forward to seeing some of the issues addressed. One thing I would like to just comment quickly on, I noticed there is a fence noted in your bylaw, because in the past we seem to be restricted, or we didn't have the tools to address some of the bylaws regarding fencing, which is good to see. And is this just a complaint driven, Rob, or if any of the bylaw enforcement people are out and about and they see an issue, would that be addressed without an issue complaint?
So through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, our intention would not be to change the way that we currently enforce bylaws in the township. We would carry on being a complaint-driven bylaw enforcement department. To do otherwise, I mean, that would be a fairly significant change if we were to do things on a proactive basis. And I think, quite frankly, we'd need additional staff, and so there would be some significant cost to approach our bylaw enforcement in that way. Clearly, if council thought that that was an important thing to do, we could certainly come back and provide council with a summary of what that would look like if we wanted to do things more on a proactive basis. But I think by making these changes, as to Councillor Ellis's point, we'll have the tools available to us if and when we start to get some additional complaints from neighbors who are upset with the way that their neighbors, from people who are upset with the way their neighbors are maintaining their property. And I think over time we'll likely see some additional complaints come our way when people start to recognize that we have this, these tools available to us, and that'll go some way, I think, to helping beautify the community, which is, I think, ultimately the goal, right? We want to make sure that we present the community in the right way, right, to the general public and to our ratepayers. And to the fence point, in this context, what the property standards bylaw will do is allow us to ensure that fences that are in place are properly maintained and are not unsightly. But I think what we're likely to do is, in the fullness of time, in the next few months, actually present council with a bylaw that would regulate fences a bit more strictly. Maybe talk about fence heights and put a regulation together that will guide people to build fences in a way that don't create a problem from a visual impairment standpoint, from people getting out of their driveways and things like that, and give us again some more tools to help deal with concerns that we've heard from other people. So
anyway, job well done. Hats off for the work there. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly support the implementation of the property standard.
Okay, so I'll look for a motion to move the recommendation. So Art, go ahead.
I just had a quick question.
Yep.
I'd like to like the deputy mayor and everyone else, thank you staff for all the work you've put into this. Just for clarification, in terms of multiple offenses, say the first offense is the grass is too long, and then we get a call 6 months later and it's because they've got a broken down car parked in their yard. Is that considered a second offense, or is that a brand new offense because it's 2 visits to the same property? But as we've broken it down here, there's multiple offenses here, so I think we need some clarification on that in terms of going forward.
Rob?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I mean, typically, my experience has been that, we would want to be very, very specific when we advise the landowner of their obligation, right? So if we attend and it is a tall grass issue, I think the letter that we send to them would be comprehensive and say, look, you're obligated to maintain your property in accordance with our clean yard bylaw, right? And that bylaw is available on our website. And then if they have another offense of the clean yard bylaw, regardless of whether it's tall grass or derelict vehicle, they would be subject to the second charge.
So that would count as the second offense then, Rob?
It would, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then, so there's a recommendation here. Somebody want to make a motion to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any other questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Rob. Very good. Okay, so the next item on here is the electoral boundary changes, and this is something that it's kind of like time sensitive. I don't know why there's such a rush to get this done. And I think we do need to write a letter to them to that effect, that I'm not sure what council's thoughts are here, but I think they should have allowed more time for discussion personally, and find out why they're doing this. Well, Hart, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. Just not enough information. This has the ability to affect our township in a big way. A number of comments from people consider Peterborough County our community, and I haven't really received clarification on whether or not we'll be remaining in Peterborough County or going to whatever, Hastings County, I guess it would be to the east. Just a number of things. Once you sit on Peterborough County Council, right? So I mean, I don't know if we're not in. It just brings up a number of questions that really I don't have answers. I haven't formulated all my questions either, because I don't have much information. It's only what I've seen in the paper or through the news. So, but I will say I am. I'm not surprised that we haven't heard about this. It seems to be the way the upper levels of government tend to operate. Drop this in our lap at the last moment and ask us 5 to make a decision here without really having the information available to us, right? So I'm not comfortable making any decision on this until I have a lot more information. And I'd like to see whether it's the MP, the MPP, whoever, somebody at a higher level that will be making this decision. I'm here and explain this to us and explain it to the rest of our community.
So that being said, yeah, the MP called me last week and she asked about this, and I said it was coming to our meeting this week, and she would like to know what we think, and I think there will be an opportunity, but I think because of the timeline here, the 25th of September, we do need to send a letter in that we object to it until we have more information, and then, because I don't know what the rush is here. It's it did come to us at the last county council meeting. I know Bob's collected some information on it, but I mean, when you got to go hunting for it, they should have came and seen us. That's what I said to them in the first place, that, you know, they should have involved us in the discussion. I know even North Kawartha, like, you know, is who they have more in common with, should fall into it too. We've talked before about Northumberland, that we have more in common with Northumberland. As far as the boundaries, right now, the county has, I think, 3 MPs representing them. This would be 4. Last election, they put Norwood in with the South and eventually the province follows. So to think that it's just going to be a federal thing, it's going to change the provincial too. So I do think we need to direct staff to, I think it would come from this council that we require more information and we object to how it's presented, is the way I would see it, but it's up to council here to open it up. Dave, go
I
ahead.
certainly agree with your comments, Mr. Mayor. And there, you can go out this in any direction you want. It's to benefit the government, not going to benefit the people. We are traditionally Peterborough County. And the bean counters can sit there all they like and figure out, well, there's 100,000 here and 100,000 here, and only 95,000 here. If we take this one, put them here, we all be equal. But we're not equal. We're not the same. So I'm definitely opposed to this. Cav and Monaghan are going to look at 3 different individual writings. So no, I agree. If we could have our clerk Birch Smith a nice letter and get it off, that we need more information, as Councillor Webb has indicated, and we're not in favor of this.
So did you want to move that?
I will move that.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Duro that we write a letter to who
Marion Monsaf for one.
no, she's to Farrar, Michelle Farrar. Yeah,
I remember the thing.
yeah. So she would be copied on it, but whoever this has to go through.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, as the report indicates, the comments are to be sent to the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission. There is an address there and we will send it to the appropriate person. And of course, copy our federal member of parliament.
That's good. Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Duro.
Clarification, or as a part of that, are we saying that we don't approve of it too?
Yeah, we object to it
Okay,
as presented.
well, yeah, I object to it as presented in that it has, nothing really has been presented.
Yeah, like,
But I'm saying in terms of the actual thing, I'm not really decided either way
No.
because I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
so that's what
that's
we would
what I'm
like
trying to
to
clarify.
discussion.
Are we saying that we didn't like the way he sent it and we're not going for it? Or we just don't like the way he sent it? Give us more information so we can.
I think that's what I kind of mean as it presented. So they come and they explain it to us better, I guess it's gonna be.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Mayor Martin, there is a proposal from the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission that the township will move to the riding of Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, Tyendinaga, as per the report in the attached map. So that's where we're going, unless they change their minds.
So we object to that.
Right.
So I think that's what the gist of the letter has to have in there, is that we object to what's proposed to us and we want some more discussions with them. So, right, is that, you can word it there how you word it how you want it.
No, that's
We object.
It's fine the way it is. I don't think they'll read it like that. I'm just saying. I'm not 100%.
Yeah.
I'm 90% maybe,
Yeah,
but there are a few interesting things. If we move east, so.
yeah. Okay, Barry, go ahead.
People are weird.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we can object to it, but do we have any reason for objecting? You just don't put down we object to it.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
we're gonna have, like Dave, you know, you don't have a bean counter telling us what we should do. We've been in Peterborough County for how many 100 years? And now they want to steer us out and send us down there. We're gonna be one of the furthest points away again. Only even further away than what we are with Peterborough County.
Still in North Kawartha.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about North Kawartha. I'm
No,
talking
but-
about Havelock here right now. And
Yeah.
but
So-
there has to be.
So
a
we gotta
reason.
give staff direction. So Dave, how did you want to word that then? I know we can leave Bob to what's just the gist of what you want this motion to be, because we're not saying no, but we want it explained better.
They give us the map, told us where we're going to go. If they implement. I don't have all the listing in front of me. I should have brought it. But we're not only going to Hastings County. That representative from Hastings County will have to take in all of Hastings County, Bancroft, Maynooth. Several,
Napanee.
several other jurisdictions. And we feel we will be served better through our MP from Peterborough County.
Yeah. But this isn't Hastings County. This
No, but
is-
it used to be.
Yeah, but this isn't a county thing. We're still Peterborough County.
I'm just saying, this used to be Hastings.
Yeah, but we're still Peterborough County. This is nothing, don't get it mixed up to county. We're still part of Peterborough County, but we're gonna have another person to deal with at the county. When we tell them now to send a letter to our MP, they send 3. Now they're gonna have to send 4.
No, for sure, for sure. And to the point, I think it was the Hastings federal riding too. Went all the way
Yeah.
from this side of Peterborough down to Perth. And all I'm saying is that, yes, okay, we've had the discussions, we're familiar with Peterborough. But I'd like to see a little bit of information because not everything that comes out of Peterborough is so great. So if we have another option, right, then I can't see why we wouldn't look at that. Now, right now, obviously, we're heavily leaning towards staying where we are. That's what I'm hearing from our community. But who knows, once that information comes out, maybe there are more opportunities, right? People have told me the Eastern Ontario Development Fund. There's funds there that possibly if we get out of Peterborough County, we're available for some of that. I don't know. Okay, but some of these questions I think should be answered before we just blindly make a decision, because it is a big decision.
So Bob, can you kind of hear what we're looking for here? Can you make anything of that? I'm not saying no. We just we want some more input into this thing and we want to understand it.
Well, I will ask for clarification through you, Mayor Martin. The resolution I heard from Deputy Mayor Giroux was that we are opposed to the proposed change to move the federal riding that is currently, that Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is currently in, which is Peterborough-Kawartha, and that we're being moved. So we are opposing that change, and I would suggest we ask for a longer comment period to receive more information.
That sounds pretty good.
Could we put in there because we haven't received an adequate reason why we're being moved out of this, or an explanation as to what the reasons are, why? Obviously, it's some kind of electoral process here, but I mean, still, I think somebody could come here and answer 4 or 5 questions, couldn't they?
Yeah, I think so too. What I read is, I tried to keep up with it. And what I've read, it numbers. And it's trying to get all of the areas to get the same population. So that's why they're moving around. To me, that could be true, but to me, Havelock-Belmont-Methuen has traditionally been conservative.
For sure.
And the way I look at it, right or wrong, they would like this writing to go into another conservative writing and give the rest of Peterborough County a better crack at the Liberals.
Okay.
As I say it the way it is.
Yeah.
So Larry, you had a question?
Well, without carrying this on any further, I think everybody's in agreement. We are not in favor of jumping on board until we have more information and a little more clarity. I think Deputy Mayor Giroux has kind of touched on it. It becomes a political ball game for voting. And that's my belief, that's part of it. And I was just going to ask Bob Angione if we've had any correspondence from the general public voicing their displeasure or concern.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I received 1 email late yesterday afternoon, which I did forward to council.
So I think So I think moving,
So if the general public has the information that you just spoke to, Bob, with where they can voice their displeasure through the voters, you mentioned it a minute ago that I've lost it already, but a place for them to correspond their displeasure for what's taking place.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, I did include in my report the email address and the mailing address for the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission to send correspondence if anyone
Thank you,
wishes.
Bob. Thank you.
Yes,
That's
you're
very important.
but I think for the motion here today from Deputy Mayor Giroux is that we object to the way the process was handled and so the key thing here, I think that Councillor Webb's saying is we don't want to say that we're not in favor of it until we get more information. So we need more discussion. We need them to come and see us, and we object to the timelines in the process. I think that's the big thing here is that we want more discussion on this and we want the public to have more say.
Yeah.
Okay. Barry, go ahead and
Yeah, we gotta have something in. We got 4 more days
yeah.
and we're gonna be ignored anyway, you know, from the past.
But at least we've said something in there.
Yeah, so you're gonna either accept it or you're not going to accept it. Handwriting's on the wall. We know that they either go ahead without asking or they ask just before they want it there. So
I know.
we all know what's going on.
Okay, so I know North Kawartha, they've also passed a resolution to, and I'm not sure if it was objecting to it, because they've said too, that they would like to have had more input. They relate more to Halliburton than they do to this riding, so, you know, and probably they were there before too, so. That being said, do you have enough there then, Bob, if,
Yes, I think so, Mayor Martin.
okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux with what Bob has there.
The motion will read that the Council of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is not prepared to support the boundary realignment as proposed by the Federal Electoral Boundaries Commission for Ontario until a further explanation is provided and perhaps an audience with council is received.
That's good. You're gonna second that, Barry?
Yeah.
All right then. All right then, so we have a motion on the floor and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next we have correspondence here and one action item with regard to the Legion. It kept up. So we have the military service recognition book and there. I think it's we've supported this before. I think that's why it's coming back to us. So what's council's thoughts? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
For you, Mayor Martin, I believe we have supported this before, and I don't know what the dollar sign was, but if staff could find out where it was, I'd move. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can clarify through you, Mayor Martin. We have supported this previously. It's a 1/10 page full color. It's the business card size ad for $375.
Okay,
I'll move that, Mr. Mayor.
moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconded by Councillor Webb. Questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so and that's all we have for correspondence. Next, we'll move into councillor activity report. And there is nothing from the county. We didn't have a meeting last month, so we'll move right into the activities here. And Deputy Mayor Giroux, you can start off with oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if I could, through you, Mayor Martin, through inadvertence, there should have been a set of minutes attached. Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we will bring those to the next meeting.
All right then. All
Quite
right.
acceptable. where to start? It was a fairly short meeting. It was mostly about finances. We're in good shape. The trails are all up and running after the storm. And there was quite a bit of damage, as we all realize. But everything's going, and when we get our minutes, you'll see that. We're going to have our first in-face meeting, I guess you would call it, in October. So we'll see what happens. So other than that, if there isn't any other questions.
All right, any questions with regards to the OTA? Okay, Dave? Ontario East, did you have anything for that? The Ontario East Conference there? Did you have anything that you
Yeah,
wanted?
I would just add, Ontario East, to me, this year was, there certainly wasn't as many participants. I think there was, I forget what they said. It was smaller, but to me, it was a lot better. The conference was, the speakers were great. All the speakers. Much information given out in all aspects of their fields. Sometimes you go to a conference and you'll get into a room that you didn't mean to get into because the other room was full and I can't stand up for an hour and a half, so I would take in another one. The speakers were great, and representatives that were on the floor in the for instance, Ontario, because the Crow Valley, the Ontario Conservation Area was there. I had a great talk with them. They actually knew things about, well, they didn't know things, but they were aware of the way our system works between HPM and Crow Valley, so they're up on it. Sherry was there also, and I think she got 110% from this conference. She was busy, and she made a lot of contacts, and it was a great conference. Other than the walking, you get lost in that place every time you turn around.
Yeah, it's yeah, well, that's what it's all about, networking. So okay, is that your report there? Is that it?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Barry, you were at the Ontario East too?
Yeah, well, I have to follow along with our deputy mayor has said here, and I do have the economic development down as one thing. That was an economic development conference, as far as I'm concerned. We met with the chair of the Lower Trent. We're on the phone with Bob first thing Monday morning, 8:30 when he opened up. Larry and I, in fact, we had 3 different phones on at the same time because we want to get this matter straightened out to the south of us so that we can progress with our new buildings if and when we get them, forever. And any new building permits, because we don't have the signing authority, and the Pro Valley doesn't have the signing authority, so we're talking to the Lower Trent. We had the chairman there, so anyway, the Bob will probably inform us. We're going to have a meeting. They've decided down there what they're doing. Other than that, well, one thing I did notice is Cambion joined up with O10 down in the Kingston area, with their water and sewer, and I was at a meeting with that, and it just showed where some of our people are joining forces. Other than that, like there was a lot of information. Some of it was good, some of it wasn't so good. And same with everyone, but I'm still saying that was an economic development conference. And if anybody has any questions, I know, sure, we will have because she was right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's run by the Economic Development from Ontario, I think. So yeah, so that's what it is, economic development, and that's one of the best ones, I think, around for that. So,
In the future, that would be the person to send.
so okay, Larry, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, without repeating what Deputy Mayor Joe and Councillor Pomeroy said, I think even looking back to the AMO conference, economic development, there's a little flavor of economic development in both of those conferences. Again, the keynote speakers to me with both conferences were great. And again, there was always a flavor of economic development in their presentation right up until the last day. Mr. Fraser, who was very much involved with Lakers lacrosse in Peterborough. So he even spoke to that a little bit. Yeah, I think Sherry really took home lots of good information. I know the very first day I bumped into another economic development lady there, and I gave Sherry her card when she arrived, and they did some networking there. So I look forward to Sherry's report. I know she's going to bring a report back to probably the next council meeting, but a great council, a good conference. Again, the keynote speakers seem to be the key at the last conference and much involved with economic development. It was a great conference, busy time, but good conference.
It's good. Okay, and yeah, you're right. So Sherry will be bringing a report to the next meeting, and yeah, and I'm sure we'll get some good information. So with that, I'll get a motion to receive the liaison reports. Moved by Councillor Webb, seconder Councillor Ellis. I think all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, and we don't have any other new business or no new business here. You have something, Barry?
Yeah, the fire truck back at Cordova, the half ton, is there nowhere to put it in the garage somewhere out here?
Oh, I don't know. I seen a bunch of trucks in there last week. Midtown?
Oh, the you know, the fire truck, the half ton,
Yeah.
rather than sit out back there.
Oh, when I seen it last week when the door was open in there.
Well, it's been sitting there since Brad quit, so I think it's pretty near time we move it in and put it inside the building somewhere. We got lots of property now that we can put it inside.
Okay, do they use that back there as a response truck?
I don't know, we have to go through Ray and
Yeah. So
Never had it
maybe
before. I can't see a reason for it to be back.
I'm not sure for medical calls. I don't know.
He's across the
It's back there at night, so nobody's around, but it's been in the same spot
I thought,
a while.
okay, well, we'll find out about that and
I never
ask
Peter
Ray.
got a place for it.
Yeah. That it? That it, Barry?
Yeah, I read somewhere in the correspondence about a filling station for water. Have we ever discussed that anymore? Or?
Well, it's in the budget.
Yeah, but I want to know what it
I don't think
entails.
so.
I noticed that Amber was coming to make we never decided where it was gonna go.
Okay,
I know you wanted it up by the tower. I don't believe that that's where it should be to begin with. And secondly, I don't think we should be selling big quantities of water. We got equipment here that people in Havelock are paying for to maintain. And if the pumps are running, 18 hours a day, sometimes in a drought, they're up to 24, and we got to swing over. It's,
so maybe you can put that on the next meeting, because I don't see anything, I don't know. Yeah, bring it back to the next meeting as far as the water filling station, and I don't.
Yeah,
see
through
any-
you, Mayor Martin, the tender for that is being prepared to be posted. That's where that issue sits.
Okay.
It was approved in the budget.
Yeah.
So that's where that matter is.
but if it's not, if we don't know where it's going, how can you You know,
At the time, it was approved to be put at the water tower, right?
I remember that, but anyway,
That's where the picture was. And
it's great for you fellas that are out in the country they were gonna sell the water.
well, at least we're not giving it away.
Yeah, but how much water are you gonna sell?
I don't expect a big change. It's, but anyways, we'll bring it back at the next meeting and that's where we can discuss it.
Okay.
So, okay, you got that then? So
Yeah.
that could have been a notice of motion, I guess. that, we have some discussion on that. Dave, go ahead.
Just a small item. Perhaps at the next meeting, Bob, we could have a report on our, what would I call it? Experimental is not the word, but a project over at the well.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we have invited Aqua to come and join us, so hopefully that they will bring that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So that'll be the next meeting?
Yep.
All right then. All right then. So with that, let's, we'll move into, we've done the bylaws. So the only thing we have left here for this meeting is the confirming bylaw. For this meeting, are we going into closed session now and then coming back out for the confirming bylaw, or do you want the confirming bylaw done now?
Through you, Mayor Martin, that's completely up to council.
So, Barry, go ahead.
I'd like to take a half an hour and break for lunch anyway.
Okay, well, our meeting goes till 12:30, but if you want to break early, that we can, so. And come back at quarter to 1.
Well,
So-
we only got 20 minutes from go into caucus and then.
Yeah, that's fine. So confirming, but we'll get to confirming bylaw and we'll adjourn this meeting and we'll come back for. So motion for the confirming bylaw for today's meeting.
That's hard.
Hart. And the seconder for that is Councillor Ellis. All in favor, and that's carried. And motion to adjourn the public meeting is Councillor Pomeroy. And somebody else want to second it? Councillor Webb. All in favor, carried.